right-hand side yet again. Yes, he's trying to pressure out the solo lane. We saw him do it in game 1 and a little bit in game 2. His goal is to kind of just pressure out Snowflake. Terra!
Oh my god! Oh my god! Brian Codex out here soloing Alfredo, the support, taking down the ADC. That's gotta be a clip that we throw somewhere, man. That was absolutely bonkers. Alfredo not feel the global ult, but she's here despite that. And we might see Apollo able to come as well. The final basic as Kairos tries to finish it off with the dash, but Fuzzy Clay did this, but regardless, it will be a Primal Fury going the way of Fuzzy and the Wuzzies, and now over 10,000 gold up before 20 minutes into the game, and it wants to be even more. Orden trying to chase out Kairos. It will be some peel, but
Fuzzy
joining in on the ultimate, gonna force out the ultimate from Kairos as well, and he might just get away, but it forces him to dash into a rough spot. Raijin dashes as well, trying to get damage from the Taiko Drum, so gets taken out before he can get more than one shot off, but Alfredo finding himself a double kill, looking for the triple. Fafnir low, triple kill coming out from Alfredo. He's going to look for the Quadra, getting low here, trying to find it onto the Artemis, but Double Mumble doing a great job of zoning him out and gets the dash to finish off the kill. Soul still alive, wants to put more damage into this Sobek, and he might be able to finish it off, and he does. 4 members fall from Going Ghost, only 3 members on the side of Fuzzy and the Wuzzies, and I gotta say,
That's all of their ults? Yeah.
Oh. Huge! Oh my god!
Huge.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's go!
My goodness.
Room. Can you knock up?
I have it in 1.
Nah. Damn. If we were all right, we could do gold. If I just killed Matt, too.
Kill the Bacchus.
Bacchus, easier kill.
Coming over. Nice job.
He jumped?
Yeah,
Nope.
he jumped around me.
Yeah, we don't have anyone else coming. He's gone. We can leave him go.
Good shit.
Oh, just supports carrying games.
All me, baby, all me! You really thought you could obtain this amount of God-given talent? It's already too late to run, just give me the penta! You can thank me later? Nah, you can thank me now. Somebody's gonna end up calling the police if this cyberbullying.
And I think that'll be it for the team fight. They're gonna try and back away and get away with their lives here after all said and done.
That was a very tentatively played fight, but it's not over yet!
What are you doing there? What are you doing there, Rack Attack?
I'm glad you said it, because I was thinking the exact same thing. It's object permanence. Hey.
That kill, but now it's the Gold Fury started up again.
Is being pulled, it's being leashed. Ragnarok is used, pulling him further away. And Alien Nation going to pick it up. All members of Dismay instead put their attention onto Demise, and the Gold Fury became free. For the other team, still not there, rolling forward. They want to guarantee the fall to get the trade. They do. Beezer's found a second kill of this fight. Radical finds the third one onto Vibe, and it's all onto Blizzato to try and get away, but this time doesn't have his crystals available yet, and Weezer gets a double kill in the end. That's an overall 4 for 1, and it looks like the Gold Fury as well.
Massive turn for Alien Nation taking that team fight, and we
Welcome everybody to the Albion Giants, week number 2 in our Collegiate division here. We have a matchup here in our Group B, we have Alabama Crimson versus Kentucky Wildcats. I am Dr. Thanatos. Joining me here on the desk, as well as doing our production work here, is King Batu.
Hello, hello. Excited for another collegiate match. Always excited to watch some amazing smite by these wonderful players, and yet to see a bad matchup, so always excited to watch.
Yeah, these matchups in this collegiate division have been tons and tons of fun, especially the matchup. We got to see both these teams last week. Actually, you and a University of Alabama Crimson there, kind of steamrolling Texas A&M there, while Kentucky Wildcats had a close battle there with Illinois Blue. But I think we should just hop into these picks and bans and see where these teams are going to go. And Batu, I know you had a chance to watch both those games. Where do you think some of the priority here is going to be for at least Alabama Crimson here?
Well, I think it's really going to focus around these mages, where I'm going to be particularly interested, because I know both of these mid laners are really good, as well as some of the jungle picks. We do have a lot of those warriors that are very prevalent in the jungle right now. Osiris, Gilgamesh, Fenrir is also kind of having that bruiser kind of type in there, and with Fireball Ninja, the jungler for Alabama Crimson, being a very strong player. I'm very interested to see that mid 2v2 and mid 3v3 where that evolves to.
Yeah, I do think that mid 2v2, mid 3v3 is really going to determine the pace of this game, because if either team gets off to a quick start with that, then it's almost just game over right there. I think both these teams know how to take a lead and really run with that lead, to be completely honest here. But Alabama Crimson going for 3 mage bans here, the Persephone, Tiamat, and Morgan Le Fay, like you had expected. And Kentucky Wildcats branching out a little bit, getting that hell out of the way, getting the Osiris, that Fireball Ninja is definitely starting to get known for, if you ask me. As well as the Audio, that has gotten some buffs here, so she's been getting a lot of, play here and there. But Odin going to be the lock-in right away here for Alabama Crimson. And, I mean, do you see any issues with just getting an Odin right off the bat?
Nothing wrong with an Odin first pick. I think you can, depending on your player's skill, you could probably flex into 3 different roles. Probably jungle being the weakest, but best in solo, good in support as well. And like I said, I think you can also, with how the jungle is currently play it there. The thing interesting for me is this hell ban right off the bat by the Wildcats shows that either this is something they just don't want to deal with, or this is a pick where they are specifically target banning, because usually hell ends up being just like a counter ban in the 2nd or 3rd phase if it's not something that's known, which with that being left open allows that Odin pick, and the Wildcats going a very apt route that I really like. Looking at that Gilgamesh who was left open, which has been kind of slipping in prioritization just with some of the nerfs that he's received, but hit that and the Cerberus are pretty good solid top 2 if you ask me.
Yeah, both picks you are never going to complain about one bit. And with that Cerberus having some flex potential as well, that is always nice to see there for Wildcats, able to kind of adjust where they need to be. And Alabama Crimson going for this Artemis. And now that I see the Cerberus Gilgamesh and then, Alabama Crimson going right back with this Artemis, I'm a little surprised that Wildcats didn't want to take that Artemis. But then again, the Odin is on the side of Crimson, so maybe they're just playing on the side of caution in terms of going against that Odin.
Yeah, Crimson played this really well. Grabbing the Odin really assures that they can get this Artemis if they want it, which it looks like they do if they lock it in top 3, because you don't really want to lock that into an Odin, especially right off the bat, right as the top. And I really like this Artemis into these first 2 picks from the Wildcats already. Gilgamesh, Serb have some longer animations on their abilities. Artemis has some good CC, some slow immunity as well, so she not terrible into those 2 picks as far as fighting, and if she has the advantage, she drops the Tusky and can really turn the fight really easy. So I like these picks. On her pickup here, I like that they went with the ADC here, get that ADC matchup pretty much set in stone. I don't know how much I like it, though, into the matchup. Raijin, while immobile, allows for a lot of damage for that on her, but that goes both ways with on her ult as well.
I do have a little insider knowledge here in the terms of Wildcats. Agent Blur there is a pretty freaking good. Arthur and her, I've had to play against that one a few times, and it is not that fun to play against. So I think he's really looking to get aggressive early, fast, and shut this Artemis down before she can really start to get going, which maybe that is the goal here, the Wildcats, since Alabama Crimson's late game so far is very, very strong. But looking back over to these bans here, we got Yamoja and Scylla banned out by Alabama Crimson, and a Wheelix Aries for the Wildcats. So, I mean, if you're in the spot here of Wildcats, where do you think you want to put your priority? Do you want to pick up that mid laner right now, or do you think you want to maybe leave that solo lane as that kind of, that's still that flex pick there in that last position, so you still can branch Cerberus?
I think with Cerberus Gilgamesh, it pretty much in my mind is set Cerberus in the solo role, Gilgamesh in the jungle, as I think Gilgamesh solo Cerb support is possible. I still like Gilgamesh more in the jungle and Cerb in the solo lane. So I think you just grab your support here. These two bans really do seem to be pointing to sort of a very immobile mage or a mage without CC immunity, something like, a Merlin or even a Hera, which I've seen a little bit more in my ranked games now. Something like that in this mid pick. So if you're going to pick something like that, you want to be absolutely sure the 100% comp, you know what you're picking into, which looks like they're waiting on that. They end up locking in this Sobek pick. Good pickup, good displacement, which is one of the strongest things in my opinion against an Artemis.
Yeah, it's just the best way to deal with an Artemis is to make her have to use her beads early, fast, use her ult when she's not necessarily ready to fight, or, having to use that defensively isn't always their favorite thing as an Artemis player. But Alabama Crimson here with this Fafnir hover, that's a little bit scary to pair up with this Artemis, because if she didn't already have the best attack speed steroid in the game, it only got better, and with Silver Branch still being plenty viable, that full bow build still being an option here, there's no surprise to see that Fafnir locked in. This Artemis is going to be chunking. It just scary. And even on top of that, Fafnir buff going onto this Camazotz as well, you're not going to hate seeing this Camazotz just put in some big damage from autos as well as his abilities.
Yeah, not a whole lot of traditional follow-up for this Fafnir is usually seeing that double hunter. You'll see a solar Kronos with a hunter, or even sometimes, back in the triple guardian double hunter meta where you just pull out two of the hunters with it. But I do really like it in this comp. You have the Odin cage. One of the things Odin does really well is picking a spot where you guys are going to fight. And Fafnir doesn't exactly have a lot of lockdown as far as group-wise. He's, of course, got that hammer in the Draconic form. He's got that stun where you can stun so long on one person using that jump, as well as that, breath there. But that really only locks one person down. With the Odin pairing, it really going to allow them to just kind of pick a fight where they want, and using those ults together is going to have so much control. So I really like this front line, especially when you've got a backline that's like Artemis and Raijin. Raijin, while he does have that dash, he likes to use it aggressively. The Artemis, of course, other than that little bit of a speed up on her too, no mobility there. And just like predicted earlier, an immobile mage on the other side. I do like this Merlin pick if it gets locked in. Just because, again, area control, that's going to be a great way to fight this Odin Cave, is just drop a ton of that damage. That fire stance does so much, and it's really not something you want to fight in.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the opposite side here. I like the Merlin as just the idea, the damage and whatnot, but I think the issue is really going to be that Odin, because Little Roughneck there last week when he got to play that Odin looked absolutely unstoppable. Nobody, if you're immobile, you're not going to live, is pretty much how that one ran down. So I think it's going to be really hard for liking here on this Merlin to really get off to a start, and especially in these late game fights with Camazotz jumping on top of him. But quick question: who do you got to give this one to here, though? That's my question. Who has the advantage right now?
Well, based on what I've seen, I think I might have to give the edge to Alabama Crimson. They're such a strong team. But as far as just looking at these drafts, team names aside, I really like the Wildcats draft. They have Cerberus and Gilgamesh that are and Sobek that can all burn beads. They have Honor and Merlin that is amazing burst follow-up. So if they really go for this kind of pick comp, try to force some of these 3v2, 2v2 kind of fights and try to break down this fight a little bit more and not let Alabama Crimson use all of their ultimates together. Artemis ult is good in a group. Fafnir wants to coerce everybody. Odin wants to cage everybody. If they can kind of split that up, I think Wildcats have a great end game fight if they play it that way. But again, this is Alabama Crimson. They've shown to be a strong team, so they got their work cut out for themselves for sure.
Well, the only way to see if Alabama Crimson are able to group up and steamroll through the Wildcats is to go to Cast, and that's with the SSB, the Supersonic Blur, and the EIH Vengeance.
Thank you guys on the desk, and Blur, We got to cast both these teams last week in separate games. Today, they're playing each other. One thing that was mentioned is Fireball Ninja in the jungle, but this time he's piloting a Kamazotz, and I'm not too certain how I feel about that.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit while we were backstage and as we were starting things up about how the sort of metas have changed, and a lot of this has been junglers really able to dictate a lot of things right now. Yes, they sacrifice a lot of farm, but their presence and pressure is what makes up for that a lot of the time, and I just don't see a Kamazotz doing that. What can a Kamazotz do? They can provide a lot of damage. That's about it, and we can see that, well, they're going to need to provide something because duo lane's already in trouble.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's about as much as you expect from a on her Sobek combo against a Fafnir level 1. But speaking of combos, looking at mid, Trizzle is already falling low. The blink gonna get him out just in time as Zordion'll almost find himself the kill with the percussion drum just a little bit off the mark there.
Yeah, that was absolutely beautiful situation from T-Trizzle. Literally a blink and you'll miss it to Fireball there. A quick 180 to get them around. I like the fact that when Wildcats are in that situation, Fireball starts that with the blink. They go aggressive. They go hard for engage on the damage. So what do Wildcats do? They split themselves up so they doesn't spill out the damage. Trizzle could have potentially fallen in that situation, but able to get themselves away. And UA Crimson just couldn't quite get in enough damage for it, but that's a really good look. And while we were saying that, you know, Fireball doesn't really do much in terms of CC, the one thing they do have is a lot of damage, and these mannequins will help them out with that a little bit. So I like the aggression with the Raijin paired up. These are two who want to go aggressive very, very early.
I am gonna have a question for you here, is because we've seen a lot recently with these Gilgamesh players going Mannequin Scepter. Is it surprising to see this Eye of the Jungle instead from Trizzle?
But just a sec. Ancient Blur picks up Zella in a nice combo again, but it is a little strange to see that. However, it does lean towards what T-Trizzle wants to do. A lot of the time, they've shown up in the later portions of the game, wanting to just strip outweigh the jungle. And talking about that, level 2 here, undeterred on the solo side.
Well, having Froggy nearby definitely helps the Roughneck. Having to burn quite a bit of his kit just to try and protect his own life, so he's not going to be able to secure his own buff here. It's going to go pretty free for the Wildcats. Fireball Ninja too late to even show up to this one, so he's going to go back to his own speed buff. In the meantime, we're going to see this right side of the map get cleared out by the Wildcats. So they're going to find themselves a little nice spot in terms of farm in the solo lane. The duo lane, they're pulling off a nice little invade at Crimson. Honestly, I don't know if they should even try to contest that one, considering how these fights have been going.
It's a little rough, but I think that is one of the things you have to try and test orders a little bit. You can't just give up everything for free. We saw that Wildcats were very quick on the disengage. Didn't see them try to fight it. Didn't see them get greedy on trying to pick up the buff. Just went for it. Or just got the XP and out. And that's exactly what Liking's trying to do in the mid lane. Just get whatever they can to get out.
And King managing to use a flicker in a good position, keeping Ninja off him, unable to get any more damage off. Seeing these pots being burned quite effectively throughout the map. Only a couple members from each team having any, but it's going to be the support. The Thumb having 3 still in hand. The kit healing been more than enough for him so far in these little engagements.
And they've been in a really good spot. When you've had this aggressive a start in the duo lane, we heard on the desk, Agent Blur has a very nasty on her here. You pair it with something incredibly aggressive. You can see first back, Thumb's able to get fully fully built Gauntlet of Thieves. Now they can just start going ahead and stacking it. And given their pathing here, they're looking to just let Agent Blur sit back and farm. They're level 5. They should be fairly safe for the most part. So now that whole idea of Raijin and Kamazotz want to be aggressive, now you pair a Sobek with it, it becomes a little bit trickier to keep that going, especially while Mashy is still over trying to babysit the Artemis.
Now I'm going to ask you this. Is this how you expected the early game to go so far? 2-0 with Kamazotz having impact, even not with kills, but just making people back away. As
well, this isn't what I expected.
This is going to be a dive. 100% Trizzle comes in, gets the drop kick kill, and Fireball Ninja's here. May be able to trade something out. Ultimate's going to be used, bringing the Sandstorm out, but it doesn't matter as Trizzle's already out, finding his way back towards his lane. Ninja, he managed to get the trade.
He did, unfortunately, though. He will be taking away the farm, and that blue buff was still invaded, I believe. So Teachers are doing a lot of work on their side of the board. So yes, they did get the invade, and all that XP as well isn't something that Ruff's going to get. So all in all, ends up about an even trade situation. But to go back to your question, I expect Wildcats to sit on Zella incredibly hard. We've seen a little bit in the SPL side of things. We saw a lot of it in the Bolts game, where Barracuda just didn't get to play Smite at all for any of those games, and it makes a huge impact because it elongates how long it would take before it becomes a problem to have this late game Artemis. So this Artemis should not have beads up ever, or have ult up ever. I'm expecting Trizzle and Thumb to be around that area consistently, causing some trouble. If not, then they're just going to try and say Agent Blur can deal with that themselves, maybe make some early rotations. And the way Blur's playing this, we can see already that's where they appear to be looking at.
And you're gonna just say, you said don't let her have beads, don't let her vault. Well, she's definitely got both of those, and she's level 6, so there's not much going on this duo lane side. But in comparison, we see coming around the Greater Scorpion of Cold Fury, Zordio is gonna go into the ultimate, get punished for it heavily. Mashi and Ninja, however, are gonna pick up some kills on the back end, taking down DJ and Blur. We're already seeing Fireball Ninja being forced into his ultimate, but he's gonna be able to turn around with the help of his support and get the kill onto Thumb. This leaves Trizzle all on his own, and he's not really going to be able to chase. He might be able to find Mashi here, but an unfortunate dropkick scenario as Zella is coming here to help out his support, and that makes Trizzle get out of dodge immediately.
All right, really nice turnaround there from Crimson. Was not expecting to see that. I thought that they'd be a bit closer from Wildcats to come in, but unfortunately, members from Kentucky Wildcats got caught out on that left side mid harpy, and Fireball Ninja said they only do damage. Well, at this point in the game, that's all they need to do. So if they can just take members out like this Merlin, or keep Teachers from making an impact, then you've essentially done your job. The best CC is death, is an old motto, and that's what Fireball Ninja's playing with right now.
Now, you got to mention, even with these kills happening, we still see an 8-7 level lead in the solo and ADC roles. So we do know that Wildcats, those lanes have been doing pretty good on their own with farming and keeping their opponents down as much as they can. Obviously, it's only half level for Blur against Zella, but getting caught in the trap. There's no ultimate being used by Zella as of yet. Still holding on, but he's going to have to use it here, it looks like, as it finally does with the Desert Fury, but too little, too late. Blur on the Desert Fury last hit will take down Zella. The support of his own support player there, Thumb, making the rotation in. That becomes a pretty clean kill.
So I'm going to assume that that entire engagement was planned. Agent Blur going in, stepping on the trap, making it look like they had trouble. And you saw Zella, as soon as they peer around the corner and see Thumb, they're like, oh, I've made a mistake. Didn't use the beats, don't know if they were available to them, but Raijin's going to get their beats forced from a good drop kick in mid, so still trying to be aggressive, but really like seeing that aggressive play onto Zella, the turnaround, the pillar, so beautifully placed, straight into Lurking in the Waters, expecting the ult out as well. So just all in all, a fantastic engagement. But what we're seeing, though, between Zella and Agent right now is a little bit of the build diversity. Bow into Balanced Blade difference. Looks like Agent Blur's going for the RC. We've seen a little bit of this come around, and honestly, I really like this RC pickup here. With Odibo not being as good as it is, I like the idea of just saying, okay, if fights are going to take a little bit longer, let's just sustain up through them. And it'll just help out continuously.
Over in the slow side, we see Froggy finding himself in a slight bit of trouble, but it may only last for so long. His Thumb comes in, however, he blocks towards his solo laners in the duo lane. Blur gets a kill onto Zella. Zord will take Froggy down, however. Making that plug just unfortunately the wrong direction, and DJ's here. He wants to help his support, but it's going to be no good. Lurking the Waters was used, but Roughneck will take him down, and Ninja has gone on to DJ. Step too far out too early, and Ninja takes him down. Blur, Trizzle, they will get the Greater Scorpion, but at a huge cost to their team.
It certainly is. Not only that as well, but look at what Arizona are doing right now. They're going to try and invade on these buffs that have recently just become empowered. So Sonny's going to get the benefit from those. Fireball Ninja's not playing around. They're just going to take down T-Trizzle under the tier 2.
using the bat out of hell to make sure he can get out of that tower fast enough. Guaranteed that he will not be traded. There's a free kill all the way across, and this red buff may fall in time if match.
Why?
All right, I'm gonna go with that was a miscommunication between Mashy and Zord there on how early they're gonna be able to get that buff down. Because Thumb, he does a pluck and auto, and boom, DJ still has the red buff.
Yeah, unfortunate there, but just take a quick peek at Fireball Ninja. I have to, you know, I'm going to take my hands up. I apologize, Fireball. I didn't think this Camazot pick was going to do a lot. I thought there was going to be a lot of issues with this, given what T-Drizzle could do in comparison, but 5-0-2, 7 out of 8 of the kills they have been involved with, and 5 of those they have put their name on. They have been phenomenal. Sure, they've not been able to necessarily start engagements, but the way that these team have been kind of playing, it's more a case of Wildcats stick around a little bit. UA Crimson able to find her and turn it around and just out-damage Wildcats in these spots. So I really like this kind of situation, but duo lane looking quite so good.
Blur using the Desert Fury. The jukes coming out of Zella more than good enough to make only a few of those Fury hits land, and in return he's going to pop his own ultimate. Unable to find anything on the Blur, but it's a good way to disengage that fight, keep anything from happening. Both ADCs will back instead, and Blur, he's going to get some minions under the tower, so Zella will lose that XP there. And over in mid we see a bat coming out as Zordial, while DJ is with his support clearing mid wave. In the meantime, we do have all objectives up: Gold Fury, Pyromancer, and a Fire Giant. And this is only an 8-6 kill lead at 12 minutes in. Gold, however, it's still favoring Wildcats by about 1,300.
But only just. It's not broken too much further than the 1,500 gold mark, and even then it was very quickly shut down from there. But like you said, this is a very even game, and this kind of, in my opinion, favors Arizona Crimson just because of the later stage gods that they've got, how good that team fight, the Odin Cage, is going to be able to be if we don't see Wildcats go for a Phantom. Not many members are necessarily going to be caught out, but it does hamper the aggression that can come out. We're talking about aggression. Crimson going for an invade here, getting fought back on.
They get the red buff, but Ninja's forced below half health. He's going to use Bats of Hell, try and get some damage down, but Drizzle leaps over the wall, so instead he's going to be able to go on Thumb, who he's going aggressive here. He's finding himself between 3 to 4 members, and finally has to turn around, but with teammates there, there's not a whole lot Crimson's going to be able to do against the Wildcats. Instead, it looks like this may be a Gold Fury opportunity for them. They need to be careful. Lurking around is still Alabama Crimson, but Froggy is here, the first of the solo laners to make the rotation. He blinks in, trying to cause some chaos, gets some help from his mid laner, and will finish the kill onto Zella. As she's backing off, doing a little bit of autoing, but Thumb's gonna pluck her off neck away. He's not going to allow the Odin to do anything he wants against this team. Ninja blink, gets a blink in there, some damage as well. The sands come out. Drizzle leaping away as Froggy falls to Zord. This week, Agent Blur, all alone in his own pillar, falls to the solo laner of Crimson. And the remaining members of Wildcats get on out a 2-for-1 overall, and maybe the Gold Fury as well.
Such a good start to the engagement, but the later rotation from Roughneck, again, hampering that aggression. You cannot just engage or disengage with the ult coming through. Thumb's sticking around, trying to see if they can contest this Fury, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do so. Mashy will be low, but not low enough to matter. Thumb, on the other hand, is going to end up falling. Fireball should be okay if they can make their way back on out, and they will be able to do so. A very strong engagement. It starts off great from Wildcats. They run in, they burn a lot of ultimates, they get a quick pick, then they go to Gold Fury, force members back in. They know that Zella's hasn't got the ultimate available. Mashy's just dropped out of theirs. That's the perfect time. Froggy coming over, get that pick again, but then they start sticking around a little long. They've got members split just a little bit too far. Roughneck's able to come on in, get the perfect as everyone's disengaging, and Zordal's just is literally shooting gods in a cage at that point.
Couldn't be any easier for the Taiko drums on a Horizon when everyone's stuck in an Odin cage, so they find themselves overall 3-for-1 and the Gold Fury in the way of Crimson. And with that, they've also found their gold lead for the first time in this game. And also going to get themselves a Pyromancer. Well, they were going to do a Pyromancer until Thumb decided to come in on the back end, but Froggy and Trizzle are here. They're going to try and do everything they can to keep these members in that sandstorm, but they're even finding a chance to go further. The aggressive Froggy gets the kill onto Ninja with the help of the Fire Giant coming on in. As Froggy finds himself falling low, Zord will get the trade onto him. And Trizzle wants to find more, but he's going to be all alone, so he backs off. Call from his teammates. Both teams decide they're going to go ahead and disengage.
Big shutdown bonus, though, taking out Fireball Ninja there. And it's only Froggy who ends up falling. Not quite as tanky as they would like to be. But these two teams now are starting to get to that clashing stage. And it's where some of these teamfight ultimates really start rearing their head for how dangerous they can be. And UA Crimson just has that better look for it. Massive ult potential coming through from Mashi. Be that to ignore a lot of damage themselves, or to be able to then just set up for the rest of the team with the Mass Coerce. Artemis ult, ping-ponging a CC to everyone, but maybe in a bit of trouble themselves. Beats forced, and they're going to take the 1v1.
Blur's going to use his own beads in reaction to Zella's ult. Wants to try and find more, but will get the Aegis instead. So he at least managed to get both relics down, which is going to be big for Wildcats when the team fight start, if anytime soon. But Thumb's walking right past Ninja, who's lurking behind, and finally turns around, reacts to him. Actually does more damage to Ninja than he even takes. So Thumb actually has zero worry about this jungler right now.
I'll chalk that one up to the honor behind him pelting some autos, but either way, good recognition that there wasn't necessarily too much danger in the 2v1, and that, I think, is kind of how Wildcats can kind of want to try and play this. Now Zella has no beads, no ult, no Aegis. They cannot make a huge impact in a fight. The next time they will look at any kind of objective, be that Pyromancer, maybe some of these towers, they want to semi-siege those, or just do this, go right on back and punish Zella.
And that is the result of the call. Beads, Aegis, both down. Trizzle flying on in, gets the dropkick stun. Kill ends up going his way as well. And we see Wildcats across the map. They're trying to find every little bit of farm they can and apply pressure through it. They're not finding that much success. Crimson, they're matching the rotations from mid and solo, keeping these little fights interesting, but not too far, as Froggy's the one who's actually getting a little too poked out there for his liking, so he's going to try leaping away, but the Odin Cage comes out. The Thunder Crash from Zordion, and will clean up the kill as well. So even though the tier 1 and left falls in favor of Wildcats, this Pyromancer is being started by Crimson. They're going to have to be careful. I'll blink, and Crimson still gets the Pyromancer, however, and Thumb is just going to try and find his way out, and Crimson will let him go.
And this is the beauty of this Odin pick. Odin Cage is incredibly versatile. You got a god who just used their leap to disengage or re-engage. All right, I can follow that on my own, shut them out, and they can't disengage. What's that? I want to block anyone from coming in. Fantastic. The way that Roughneck can start transitioning these, if you look at this, every fight there's an Odin Cage, those 6 seconds, UA Crimson is in pole position in whatever engagement that there is. Unless it's only Roughneck with the ultimate around, it's still very much Crimson situation. So they are able to grab themselves the Pyromancer, and that's what surprises me, is it was Wildcats who just got the pick on the left-hand side, just got a really good situation, but it's Crimson who are saying, all right, let's head them off at the pass. Let's go for Pyromancer ourselves. I love that aggression and the way that Crimson are playing this, and now they can set themselves up to contest this Oni Fury.
And this Oni Fury is going to be pretty important for whichever team takes this. Pressure will be applied across the map through these, forcing the other team to split if they want to successfully stop those waves from taking any towers absolutely free. But we're going to see a little bit of a dance here. We're going to be fighting for vision over this Fury as well. This is sort of what we see on the Fire Giant side being done over here, the Fury pit. But we see Crimson, they are sneakily getting more and more aggressive at that pit onto Thumb. Maybe not even realizing there are members directly behind this pillar until now. A ward's finally getting thrown down. They're going to back off a little bit. Oracle's going to be taken by Crimson. A little bit of poke damage on the Thumb, but they're still just going back and forth.
a little bit. That's almost half their health taken out from a couple basics and a bit of damage from Zordal. So, lot to worry about there if I'm on the Wildcats saying, hey, our main aggressor's now at half HP. They can't really engage on this, and look at their positioning now. They've pretty much seceded the entirety of the pit. No vision around for them, and Oracle's in the way. Crimson's just looking, lying, waiting in the wings. The longer they draw this out, better it could potentially be for them. They're waiting on Zella's beads and Aegis, and now I'd expect to see them want to try and take a fight.
Well, we see Mashy go over the wall into this left-hand side, paired up with Roughneck. They're not having anyone too close outside of Zord, so poking here and there at the Fury. They're trying to do everything they can to bait the Wildcats in, but they're not taking that bait quite yet. You're going to have to commit quite a bit more onto this Fury if they want it to happen, but instead, they catch Thumb and Froggy both sneaking up that pillar, though. However, coming out of Blur is going to be more than enough to slow down their push, and the Dragon Transformation comes through. The Odin Cage on the back end. Roughneck is trying to help his team get something going, and they finally will take Thumb down. They're looking onto Froggy now as well. Trizzle comes on in. He wants to help his teammate out as best he can. Blur takes down Zella. Froggy gets a leap out just before falling, but it's going to come at the cost at Trizzle. And possibly, no, it's not going to come at the cost as King, but will take Blur down instead. Never mind. King falls to Roughneck going across. Ninja will finally take down Froggy, and that will be the Deicide and the Oni Fury only for Zella.
That's how you rip off that band-aid. It's all on Zordal. Zordal's just looking to try and find a little bit of damage. Their build is all about blowing up whoever's in front of them. And then as soon as that's Wildcats retreat, Roughneck, blink, ult, no way to get out from there at all. Brilliant work there coming through. A 5-for-1 after Zella's already fired off the ultimate. That is absolutely fine and dandy. Coming away with the Oni Fury as well. Now putting themselves 4,000 gold up here as we reach the 22-minute mark. And that's a really, 3,000 gold. And that is a really solid look for this team, which now that they've got to that later stage of the game, full bow build online, Zella's just looking for a last item, be that lifesteal, kin size, whatever at this point. It doesn't matter. Zella is here, Zella's making impact, and UA Crimson are here to make some big team fights happen.
One thing I want to point out is this gold lead for Crimson is coming with Wildcats having the tower advantage, still having one more standing over Crimson, which is now going to change as the Oni minions finally make their way up this right-hand side of the map. That's going to give him a little extra more. This left side may go down as well if Blur's not paying attention. He's going to decide to give his attention to that wave instead of his purple buff at last. But he's going to be holding on to that left-hand tier 1 for a little bit longer.
This is the case right now. Trizzle will back, and I think that may have been spotted out as Crimson are around on this right-hand side. They're just waiting on Froggy to try and disengage a little bit further. There's the Bracer. Out comes Stygian Torment. It should be a clean disengage, but more members from Crimson are lurking around this side of the map, so they could just be looking to try and get a setup for fire here.
Well, as they're going to do this, Blur is going to split push his left-hand side down, possibly look at getting a tier 2 tower during this madness. Pyromancer is going to be the call, and it is getting shredded down very quickly as Crimson will finally take it down. I mean, we're 23 minutes in, 18 to 10 in kills. Structures for now are even, but Crimson, they're trying to increase their gold lead ever more as Blur, he's going to get the chance at this tier 2, and no one from Crimson is backing, so he's going to get this free. As this Fire Giant being done finally goes down, and Thumb may be casualty of trying to do any sort of contesting as Roughneck gets the ultimate out, unable to trap the Merlin, but it doesn't matter. Fireball Ninja following behind will take him down. One goes down, another as well as Zord takes down Froggy. The left-hand Phoenix is being done, however, and Crimson just don't seem to care as members of Wildcats. They're stuck in a 2v5 over this right-hand Phoenix. And
oh no, this is not good.
This could be game if Blur doesn't find himself backing soon.
This could just be a base race, but against the Fire Giant, you can't take these kind of trade situations. Now Blur's attacking the Phoenix. They will be able to get it, but now, like you said, it's a 2v4 situation at the Titan room. Made that nearly 2v1 as Cheezel ends up very low. Now all Fireball Ninja's got to do is just keep Agent Blur busy for the rest of this engagement. Wildcats will be able to hold in the base, but damage has already been done. Trading out towers or Phoenixes at this point. There's still a lot more on the map that Crimson can do.
A little surprising. Crimson doesn't try and force down that Titan. with the advantage that they had. Blur is finally going to follow Fireball Ninja, chasing him across the map. Thought he was safe enough for a back, but not going to happen. Roughneck takes down Trizzle at the mid. Phoenix Vision Torment being used. Going to drop him outside of Phoenix, not inside, but it doesn't matter as Roughneck's going to commit inside anyways. A little bit of a minion wave getting damage done, but this tier 2 finally going to be taken down in the meantime, as Roughneck was all alone with 5 members here against 3 Wildcats. They're gonna have this is a challenge for them to be able to even contest this. Phoenix falls. Titan is the next call as Roughneck gets a stun on the Froggy, takes a lot of damage there. Zella will clean up the kill. Oh, that Psycho drums hands Fireball Ninja a double kill, leaving them so low. And game number 1 immediately after the deicide will go to Alabama Crimson.
Phenomenal work coming in from there. I was concerned that this team, it didn't look like it had a lot of pressure. It looked like they didn't have necessarily a lot of appeal for these kind of gods. They had to play incredibly safe throughout that early stage of the game, but shows what I know here is Des too. Coming in, gritting their teeth, finding some phenomenal picks, and realizing they just have the better team fight comp. So let's take a bunch of team fights. Absolutely perfect play there.
Good game number 1 coming out from both these teams early on. But to talk about what went wrong and right for both teams, we're going to throw it back to our desk before we get into game number 2.
Thank you, Vengeance and Supersonic Blur. And that game, wild. Because early, it really looked like UK kind of had that in the bag per se, but what really shifted that game into Alabama Crimson's favor there? Because it almost felt like it just kind of just a switch flipped and they were going to it.
Yeah, Onher was able to get a lot of pressure in that duo lane, but it didn't really get them any objectives. Like, they got the Scorpion over there, but then they traded on the right side of the map. I think it was their jungle support and their solo. They all ended up losing for that. So then that kind of conceded the full right side of the pressure, and then they just didn't capitalize off it because it was just a Scorpion up. And then from there, they just weren't really able to get any objectives, use that Onher. He likes to leap in, he likes to be aggressive, and he was doing that, and he was getting picks onto Zella onto that Artemis, but he was trading himself and his support for it and just wasn't getting enough value off of it.
Often getting the kill in lane, but just because you soloed the ADC doesn't mean it's doing too much for you, sadly. So, I mean, it might shift up Alabama Crimson what they want to throw over there in that duo lane. They might want to try to pick something a little bit safer, get rid of that Anherd, something along those lines, or they could just concede that lane yet again and just put full pressure there on that solo lane. I mean, if you're Alabama Crimson, do you think you just want to run it down harder on the other 2 lanes rather than try to, bring up your duo lane there?
I think what they need to do is, if they're not going to change up their playstyle, because they didn't get that chance to initiate. Odin Cage really dictated all of those fights, and it just made Raijin Artemis Assault so much value because you just get a press 4 and do your damage, and you get in value. Meanwhile, Honor's having to try to position his ult right, and Merlin's trying to make sure he's got his abilities right. It just wasn't quite enough there for them for what they need to do. So I think I need to see a little bit of shift, maybe not necessarily in the play style or the picks, but more just on where they focus on the map. I know your ADC is great. He really showed that on Onher, which is a pick we don't normally see just because he's not one of those steroid hunters, but maybe see a little bit more pressure over towards this solo jungle side. Maybe try to see if you can do the tough task of trying to get Fireball Ninja uncomfortable. He's been able to run this game. He played the Camazots early and late game, which have so much value, and I think if you can change that, it gives you a better chance in these late games.
Yeah, I completely agree right there. I think that really is the thing there, is you need to decide, if you're on UK, do we change the play style or do we change the picks? And that's something that it's not so easy to just pick up and say we're doing this or that and then just go for it. So it'll be interesting to see where they go on this one. But I mean, secondary question here, do you think you need to get rid of anything specifically on UK? Like, does that Anherd need to go, or do you think you really can play around that better since now you know what his kind of game plan and strategies are?
I mean, if I'm Alabama Crimson, I'm fine with what I let through. I mean, yeah, the Honor did have pressure, but that's Honor. He's playing into an Artemis. He had a Sobek by his side. Like, you're playing a late game dual lane to hit that late game, and Honor Sobek is early game, and they're going to push off that early game as well. So if you want to keep playing that same style as Alabama, and your jungle mid is going to be able to just keep you in that early game enough, I don't think you need to ban the Honor. Now, with that being said, if that's become something that in the second game they run it back again, they're able to turn that early pressure into a late game, then maybe we might see that start to go a little bit differently. But I think if you're just Alabama Crimson, you're chilling, you won that first game, despite your rough early game you had, you played it really, really solid, so I don't think they need to change up anything with that. Maybe look towards a soloing the Serb just because he had a lot of pressure as far as those slows. Wasn't quite as tanky as he needed to be, but I wouldn't even mind seeing that run back. So I don't know how much they want to change.
Yeah, Froggy there being a really big key factor there in that early game, especially on that Cerberus. Almost made Roughneck have a little bit of a harder time there, but Odin late game pretty much does not care and does whatever he wants, wherever he wants, especially with the backup of the team that he did had. But I think we're just going to throw it here into picks and bans for game number 2. And I assume all these bans here are going to go about all the same. I don't see a reason why anything would shift up here. I'm likely going to see that Tiamat Persephone Morgan again from Alabama Crimson, but there could be a little bit of branching out here for the side of Wildcats or Crimson here. Only time will tell.
Yeah, I think Alabama Crimson, with this change-up, they have the first spot, so they can really kind of look to take advantage of that, really take what they want to take. But my thing is, I don't really think they want to allow anything in the jungle, which, surprisingly, as I'm saying this, Alabama Crimson are the ones that are banning out the Osiris, so interesting to see where they go with this first pick is, like, if I'm Alabama Crimson, that mid-jungle, that's kind of where I'm looking for my first pick.
Yeah, definitely would agree on that one. But yeah, the same rundown here with mages. Morgan, LaFay, Persephone, Tiamat, all off the table here. The only shift up here being that Odin ban instead of that Hell ban from game number 1. And speaking of it, that's exactly what gets locked in first here for... I believe it's actually, I believe it's a Wildcats here on this first pick on this order side. So yeah, they're just going to insta-lock that Hell. Scared of it game 1, but now that they have the chance to get it this time, they're just going to get that one right away.
Yeah, and we'll get to see why this was banned in game 1, hopefully. It was the one pick that slipped through instead of the Odin there, and as Kentucky Wildcats, I very much enjoy seeing that Odin ban instead. But interesting here, Alabama Crimson taking away the Cerberus and the Honor. I kind of like the Honor pick. I don't know if I like it this early, but I think Zella kind of is a little bit upset after a very rough game 1 going 1-6. It's like, okay, hang on, I can do that too. Like, give me that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Alabama Crimson said, well, you guys... they're like, you guys did well, UK, at that start of that game. What if we just do that and do it better? Because it looks like that's what their game plan here is. And giving Zella here a more aggressive ADC, at least earlier on, might actually go in their favor. Because there is a chance that, given a different matchup, he does perfectly fine with that Artemis. It really was just that first blood there onto Mashi that kind of put him on that back foot and really wasn't able to do much from that. But Wildcats now going to do the exact same thing, and they're going to say, oh, you played these picks last game? Actually, I want to play those picks and show you how it's done.
Yeah, I mean, kind of they're basically going, hey, we liked what you have. We'll get some of that, please, and just kind of switching drafts here a little bit. But I have to say here, I do kind of like Alabama Crimson doing this switch a little bit more than the Wildcats, just because, like I said, you won game 1, and the only real lane you were having trouble was that ADC lane. And granted, it was matchup. Artemis did have some good impact late game, especially locking down that Cerberus, those traps, very much where he would ult, set the trap down, and really just kind of was fed to the wolves in the middle of 5 enemy players. But with this Raijin locked in, China mixing up their backline here, Gonna keep that here for Zord in that mid lane, which I love watching him play on that, so I don't hate that at all. So interesting kind of mix-up. We're seeing pretty much all the same picks, but just a little bit of a mix-up of which side they're on.
Now, the real question for me is, where do you think this hell is going? Because with that Cerberus being picked, it's likely to go solo. But at the same time, Hell Solo is kind of a new flavor of the month per se, but her mid lane is still no slouch whatsoever. Her level 1 can actually compete with Raijin level 1, which not a lot of mages can say that, to be honest.
Well, I really like if this Hell goes mid lane, just because it gives them that kind of early 2v2 pressure, which, if I'm the UK Wildcats, that's kind of where I was struggling the most last game. Obviously, Fireball Ninja had a great game on the on that Camazotz, was able to translate that into the early game really well, and turn that as well as also in the late game, just doing massive damage there. So if I'm the Wildcats, I'd love to see this Hell in the mid lane. I think that's where you're going to have the most pressure on it. You don't really want to throw it in the solo with the late game. I think you want a little bit more pressure over there to try to help that right side of the map where you did kind of struggle a little bit there. But with these bans going through, I love the ADC bans from Alabama Crimson, making sure that this Honor is going to get pressure as they look to lock in this Fafnir, which I really like alongside it.
I am surprised, though, that Wildcats decide to take away the Mira and Ares. Those, to be fair, are very good picks there for Mashy, but I think he did well on that Fafnir game 1, so why not try to make him play something else? But again, can't really be in the minds of the players there, but that Fafnir pick there is going to give that Anher a pseudo steroid there, so he may be able to branch into a little bit more of those bows, a silver branch per se. But Wildcats here, now going to look at this Colin for the solo lane and a Danzabura carry. That, it feels like that pick is very, player specific, because some players make this look unstoppable and other players in my mind make it look like it needs to stay off of the pick screen.
Well, the one thing I really like is with the Wildcats, with that Sobek, they're going to try to keep that ADC pressure. Danzaburo is one of those gods where he's ahead or he just kind of is there. He doesn't really do well from behind. You want to be on the front foot, just like on her. So I think right now, it's that dual lane will be interesting to watch, because it's whichever one of these hunters gets ahead, gets that pressure, and if they're able to keep that pressure going into this mid game and into that late game, they should have a huge impact, because Honor and Danzaburo love to get pressure, but when I look at their supports of that Sobek and what I would only presume is a Fafnir, I don't think we're going to see this Fafnir in the mid lane. But just so much pressure to have, all in all, that really, I think that'll be interesting to watch.
I mean, pluck into Danzataunt is one of the most annoying things on planet Earth by level 2 there, because you're 100% forced to use beads there. There is no way around that. You will die if that happens, but in this game, do you think Wildcats have made enough changes to push themselves into the lead here off these picks? Or do you think Crimson were able to steal the draft and play it better this time around?
Well, with that 10th pick, Gilgamesh, forward, I would presume we go over to Fireball Ninja. I don't know. Like, I like their draft. They have a lot of pressure. You got the Camazotz that sometimes can have early pressure, or you can just kind of play them for that late game kind of single target explode, one of the few assassins that can really do that well with the current meta up until this Tuesday when the patch kind of changes things. But hell, you have some mid lane pressure. Cullen tries to get some pressure. Serb is a rough matchup for him. Danzaburo, Sobek all get pressure. So I think as far as a draft, they've understood what went well, that pressure early game really works well, and they've now tried to get a draft to translate that across the map. I'm just going to now have to see it actually work out, because if you don't get this pressure early, what's your win con? Hell, late game, if she's behind, she just kind of dies and doesn't really hear. Danzaburo gets run down. Sobek kind of just gets caught out. Like, well, what is your win con here late? That's my big worry for the Wildcats.
Well, there's only one way to see if they can end it before that late game happens, and that is going to the cast with SSB and Vengeance yet again.
Thank you guys on the desk and Blur. We are here for what is possibly Wildcats' last game of this set. We're looking at a 1-0 lead for Crimson right now. They're wanting to close things out, get a clean 2-0. Nice point advantage in this league. And it's an interesting comp to see out of them going up against Crimson for the second one.
I definitely agree. They've kind of turned their playbook on their head. They've said, all right, you guys really like the Kamazots. You like the early pressure and fighting a lot. So let's try and play around that. Let's have hell around for early to try and keep some sustain going. Let's try and pick some more early aggressive kind of gods. But that said, Crimson have just, again, gone towards this look for team fighting. And, well, we can see that they're more than comfortable doing that as Zolo doesn't even bat an eyelid as T-Trizzle tries to be aggressive in mid.
No, and that looked like a one Crimson knew was coming. Fireball Ninja already sitting in lane just in case. And lo and behold, the blink play does happen from Trizzle. He got Zord low. Unfortunately for him, he did have the Thunder Crash to get out still. There's not a whole lot you can do about that other than Crimson. They made it out a blink.
That's pretty good for them right now, and we can see Wildcats are off to a pretty good start. All three lanes having some form of pressure on one another at this point. Wildcats, though, getting pushed back just a little bit there on the duo lane side. This isn't too bad, as maybe we see T-Trizzle going for that level 2 cringe gank. They've got to be careful if warding's around, but I don't think that Crimson know yet.
Well, someone's... If something out of his thumb, goes for the plug. Zell immediately leaps away and finds himself safety as Trizzle's gonna miss. Bats ability onto him, but Roughneck is just W-king Froggy here in lane, and a couple autos, sure, but it's a little interesting to see the Cerberus just W-key a Kukulin and just not care.
Yeah, this is the dog-eat-dog world in solo lane, the Hound of the Ulster versus the Hound of Hades. So we're going to see how that one plays out. And like the Desk mentioned, this is a little bit of a rough match. Roughneck in a very good spot, given the situation. And look at this. I love this call to try and just set up a bait here. Fireball Ninja looking for their own invades this game. And whilst the future lane doesn't necessarily mind it, they've got to be careful about 2v1 because that health bar is just gone.
Never mind being careful about a 2v1. Be careful about a 1v1 and an entire wave as he just walked forward and Archers suddenly just helped Roughneck out, getting the kill there. Ninja's gonna strip away the blue buff, and with Roughneck hitting level 5, that Stitching Torment's up, and Trizzle is not looking safe. It comes through, pulled back, the drop kick into the wall. Ninja takes the kill on the Trizzle, and DJ, what are you doing? Run, my guy, run. This is the worst spot to be in. And there's, luckily for him, Roughneck did not have the stun up yet, so he finds his way safely under the towers. This solo laner gets back to lane.
So that was literally just like, you know how you see like occasionally, I'll use the American terms and things, like you get the kids doing like the baseball and someone like underhand softballs to knock it. That's exactly what we just saw there in the entire solo side. Beautiful work between Fireball and Roughneck there, and great recognition to continue the chase on just into the tier 2 tower, because it gets them not only the first blood, but then the follow-up kill onto Trizzle as well. So now, full Void Stone available for Roughneck. That Ghastly Breath coming with protection reduction on top of the continued protection reduction. There is no way that Froggy can do anything at all in this solo lane now.
It's definitely going to be a tough battle for him. Speaking of tough battles, we're going to look at the duo lane right now, and Blur is hitting level 5, same time as Mashy Zello, but his support Thumb still sitting level 4, and they're underneath their tier 1 tower fighting back against this group. See a Ray Transformation coming out in solo, but Trizzle's over here at the duo lane, so there's going to be no chance of invade onto this Harpy. It's going to stay secure onto the Wildcat side, even though it doesn't go to the duo lane, and this is okay. Oh, we just okay, Roughneck. Yeah. You just said I don't care about the Ray Transformation. I don't care that you have the ultimate. I'm Cerberus, Stitching Torment, and he just sat there, took everything, and won the 1v1. Is rotation from Ninja over to Wildcat's dual lane, almost catching Blur. Thankfully, he has his escapability still online, and he's actually going to use the ultimate to go back in. And this is a little bit of a stretch, but DJ is here. So it will connect towards the end, but it won't stun. So see Ninja going to walk away. The Desert Fury coming in with the Taiko drums. The Zord is rotated through. This forces members of Wildcats away as they take more damage than they were able to dish out.
Certainly the situation. Agent Blood, though, able to bamboo Zordal in the mid. Good bit of work there. But now we're starting to see that UA Crimson are really on top of things. They are, as soon as they disengage, they're never too far away for any potential re-engage situation. As we saw, Wildcats are like, guys, there's one member, they're off on their own. 500, let's blow them up. Go, 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 go. Within a second, the rest of the members are there. Within a second, Zordal's like, I'm ulting. If it's for damage, if it's for peel, whatever, it doesn't matter. And now they're starting to just sort of ease and snake their way into more pressure. And they're focusing this solo side out just to give Roughneck a little bit of an easier time here.
Beautiful ult from Froggy, so he does not get stunned by the drop kick. But Zord over in mid, finding himself in a rough spot as DJ and Thumb did quite a bit of damage to him. Mashy used the Dragon Transformation, get over the wall and towards safety. Trizzle comes in to join the fight, so he's gonna find himself safe back at the tier 1 towers. Froggy, he's just trying to defend his tier 1 from these minions right now.
It's a rough situation to be in, especially for the Husha lane, who needs to try and be aggressive, but you just can't be aggressive in this situation. I mean, Roughneck, yeah, they've got barely any physical defense, but you have no magical defense against the way that this goes in. You can't out-sustain them. They steal your sustain and have their own sustain as well, so it's going to be difficult on that side of the map. So Wildcats instead look to go the other end and say, all right, let's get our duo lane ahead. They've got all 5 members around here, but UA Crimson aren't going to let it go for free.
No, but it does end up costing Mash quite a bit. But Ninja, taking the ult from Blur, manages to give Zeller the kill as well as Blur trades out the jungler from Crimson. But Zord comes in, takes down Thumb, and he's looking for more with the Taiko drums. Drizzle comes landing down from the bats out of hell, takes quite a bit of damage from that and may nearly fall here as well. He manages to catch a little bit of healing, but the Thunder Crash, he's right behind him, gets a double kill at the end as Roughneck solos Froggy in between the tier 1 and 2 towers of the Wildcats solo lane. With these 3 members from Crimson here, DJ is gonna back towards the tier 1 tower, but push right back out because he does have that health and damage advantage in the moment. Almost.
Okay, Zordal.
He almost caught Zord there.
The Taiko drums on this man to continue to back in that situation are phenomenal, undescribably large, and honestly, an undescribably large ult is what we saw in that situation, being able to constantly Thunder Crash in. Zordal had a very quiet but controllingly strong game in the last sort of 20 minutes of that game, where, sorry, 15 minutes of that game, where they just get to ult and do stupid damage to everyone. No one was able to focus them out because there was always some other problem or priority in front of them. So Zordal getting this Raijin to be able to free cast in the positions that they've been, especially with the rest of the way UA Crimson are playing around with this comp, is incredibly just detrimental to what Wildcats are trying to do. We saw them go for a potential invade. Okay, UA Crimson start up a major fight. Fireball cages in a couple members, and everyone jumps in on whoever it is. Zordal jumps on in. We saw Trizzle try to defend the tier 2, but with no such luck, as now they're going to try their luck in the mid tier 1.
Actually, he's going to use the Dragon Transformation just to make sure he's not taking too much poke for free. Get himself under the tier 1, but we saw a little bit ago, the graphs were shown, and Crimson finds their gold lead just as high as their XP sitting around 2,000 at that moment. So that's going to be quite concerning for Wildcats, as they're going to have to try and find a way to get back in. But they're pulling the Gold Fury, unknown to anyone from Crimson. Zello looks like he's going to check just in case, and he's going to find it right at the end, but he's not going to be able to contest. Wildcats will secure that Gold Fury absolutely free, finding themselves only down about 1,500, but Blur, he used the ultimate to go in onto Mashy, and his teammates, they're following right behind. Froggy is here long before Roughneck, so this has turned horrible for Crimson as Zordional falls, as well as the 5th man joining in. And this is not a good look for UA Crimson 2 for None and the Gold Fury. What a huge rotation coming out of Froggy.
100% agree. And this is what you got to do in the solo lane. You look at the matchup and go, Roughneck super far ahead. They're absolutely massive. There's no way you're winning the lane. You got 2 options. 1, try and keep Roughneck out of the engagement for as long as possible. Or 2, go ahead and say, I'm going to make an impact somewhere else. Even at level 9, the Spear of Mortal Pain is a fantastic knockup. You're a frontline. You are there for the rest of your team. With the hell in this situation as well, you have a continuous supply of health. And that's why we saw Wildcats go ahead and pull the Gold Fury. Sure, they didn't have every member there, but Froggy was on their way in. They can bait a good fight. They're not going to take too much damage because they have the health sustain to back them up. Love the way the Wildcats play to the strength of their comp. They're not beating Crimson in a straight-up fist fight, so they've got to get more creative with it and find wins elsewhere. And with that Gold Fury, they now find themselves 500 gold behind. That's it.
Pretty good couple of plays. They may be down 7-3 in kills, but structures are even in their gold. The objectives help them a lot, and as you mentioned, only down. Actually, it's about even now. As Blur, he may be finding himself in a horrible situation, though. The Dragon Transformation from Mashy coming out underneath the tier 1 tower. He's looking for the kill, but with the save, unfortunately, isn't enough. Mashy does manage to get the kill on the Blur, but it may come at expense of his own life. He's trying to do all the juking he can. Zella is nearby, but DJ will clean up the kill eventually. Find ourselves a trade overall, but that's support for ADC. I mean, that's kind of just in favor of Crimson.
Very much so, especially with the fact that you only cost Mashy's ultimate. You'd already got Asian Bloods, beads in the process. It was a big commitment to try and grab that. As now, if you just take a look at this net worth here right now, Crimson, it's a little strange to look at, honestly. You think with how the game's going, Crimson would be more at the top, but it's only Little Rough who's up at the top. Everyone else from Wildcats are all grouped around together, and then everyone from Crimson. So with the gold and XP as dead even as they are, Wildcats aren't exactly dead to rights in this game. If they can just hold out for another 15 minutes, keep themselves at about this pace, maybe 3,000 gold behind, sort of like the threshold, then you are fine and dandy as long as you get to that later stage and you know your priority targets. Someone's got to focus this Raijin in a fight.
That graph showed gold pretty much even. However, the XP only a 700 change. That's the last time it's been shown. But we are seeing that Crimson's doing a good job farming to keep that level lead. But as you said, that goal lead string is essentially even. Just going to leave items around the stage. But Blur yet again trying to start a fight on his own. Uses the ultimate. It's getting knocked around in the sandstorm. Manages to get out, and Trizzle goes back onto Zord with the Bats Out of Hell taking him down. This is going to be a 1 for none so far, as the ADC is the one engaging the last 3 fights for Kentucky Wildcats, and they're trying to find everything they can.
I absolutely love it. And it was on the perfect target. Agent Blur, a little bit deep, I will admit. That was very deep with very little backup in the immediate area. Cost a couple blinks to be able to follow through quite as far as they'd have wanted. And also as well their own beats. So Blur's got to be a little bit careful, as they may be trying to take a 1v1. Blur will end up falling to that. Zella has had enough of that. So it's great work, and look at this, the Wildcats grouped up on the right-hand side, find themselves Roughneck. That's a good look for them again.
That's Roughneck getting punished for chasing down Froggy too far on his own into the enemy jungle, as the rest of his team decided to go back to base, spend whatever gold they had, and heal themselves up as well. So Wildcats, they lose a couple, but they get something in the end as well. And Crimson, they're trying to make up for how that fight ended up going. Unfortunately, trades across the map, it all ends up just staying how it was. Zella does find Draugr in the end. They're going to find themselves a little bit of advantages here and there when it comes to any sort of defensive stance, or forcing Wildcats into a defensive stand.
And then talking on the defense stance side of things, looking DJ opting for a sort of Season 6 build we used to see with the Hell. Season 7, Paul used to like this kind of build a lot, where you front load your power with the things like Doom Orb, then you get some defense on it. I like the mantle here, given there's a lot of CC and a lot of close gods who have to apply it, like Fireball Ninja on this Gilgamesh, like Rough on Cerberus. So that stun's going to be very, very useful for self-heal on that side of things. But talk about that later and see how it works out, as the Gold Fury fight's already broken out.
You see Froggy taking quite a bit of damage as he went in the forefront. Ninja's response, getting that ultimate out there, but going back in, finding himself low. Zella takes one down. Roughneck gets another. That's the solo and mid down. Blur finds himself in an awkward situation. Trizzle, he finds the mid laner of Crimson, but Ninja takes down Blur in return. This is a 4v2, and just like the last game, it's a 1-4-3.
Not to mention the Primal Fury going down as well, and just the way UA Crimson have built this team comp. It's all about those big AoE team fights. Oh, Roughneck comes in, gets a 2-man Stygian Torment, shoves 2 members back in to the Winds of Shamash. Little King can't CC immune everything, can't heal everyone. So the fact that they get picked up as well causes a lot of trouble. The separation in these team fights is fantastic. Zella, Mashi, and Zordal all get to basically free cast the entire time. They can do whatever they want in that pit that was just set up for them. So Wildcats, unfortunately, not able to kind of fight that. And again, going back to that idea, Wildcats cannot take these kind of trades right now. They just do not have the team fight ultimates for it.
No, we're seeing Wildcats on these right-hand neutral Harpies. They do go the way of Crimson, but we saw Trizzle a moment ago take quite a bit of damage coming out from Roughneck and Mashi. And Crimson, they're even going to transition this to the Pyromancer, which is a great opportunity to get it absolutely free. And Wildcats, the lead that they had negated has thrown right back immediately just as a result of that Gold Fury fight. Already we're seeing Crimson nearly up 3,000 gold, and their XP lead is increasing as well. I mean, if we see solo lanes about level and a half, 2 levels, level over in support and ADC role. Everyone down is going to be Ninja to Trizzle, who manages to work with his teammate to find a kill trade. It's Froggy for Ninja. And they're going to try and find Roughneck as well. DJ's here, the leap away, but there's not enough mana to keep Roughneck alive. He's got to hope someone can get to him in time, and it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. The last hit is finally coming through. Trizzle gets the kill, and he's transitioning to Zord, who wanted to help his teammate, just couldn't be there in time.
Okay, so that's starting to work on now. This is the kind of thing Wildcats need to do, is they need to elongate these team fights, catch members off on picks to look for something, and do exactly what Trizzle is doing right now. Keep Zordal from making any impact in this game. The longer these fights go, the better it is for them, but Trizzle not winning that 1v1 in the slightest.
No, he wanted to go back to try and cut Mashi off, but Zord took the opportunity with the back turn to him to do quite a bit of damage. So Drizzle gonna have to start respecting this Zord and either going away from him or not turning the back if he's gonna try and cut someone off. Mashi, he may be in a little bit of trouble, but it looks like the idea that Thumb had, the rest of his teammates aren't on board with, is they're gonna stay away and decide to back. He's gonna have to get away from the support of UA Crimson in the meantime. Structures, yet again, even across the board, it's a 13-10 kill lead for Crimson. The gold difference has dropped down from nearly 3,000 to 500, and it's only a 200 XP lead now as well, and we're only 18 minutes in.
And this is exactly what I was saying. Wildcats need to just elongate this game out, keep it going, keep themselves treading water in this spot. And what they've noticed is every time they take these fights, I want to see them going, why did we win that fight? Well, members were split up. It was sort of sloppy 2v2 situations, and then we just out-muscled them, and we have hell healing. Okay, that's great. Can we keep making those occur is the next question, because UA Crimson are starting to sort of do the question of, we have a great team fight. We're going to set up a fire giant, and if you want to stop us, you're going to have to team fight us, and we know how those team fights have gone.
You saw how it happened at Primal Fury, so will they be able to get it to happen again over here on the fire giant side? If it looks like they're not even going to set up around fire giant, Rozella's still being over in this dual lane fighting Blur. Gonna have to try and find some other opportunity to make these fights happen. Zella, he's actually going to back off after taking quite a bit of damage when Blur wanted to go and try and use that taunt. But it looks like with Oni Fury spawning soon, everyone's forgetting the Fire Giant and deciding we want to get this side of the map ready, get those Oni minions good and going ahead of us, try and clear more of this map.
And this is a great time for an Oni Fury. Fire Giant's up, you're pushing into the later game with 20 minutes. A team that gets themselves Fire Giant, especially with tier 1 towers being as low as they are, threaten a lot of map pressure, but also threaten the Fire Giant. And you have a team that can now comfortably do that. Zella's just finished up Executioner, so they're going to be able to make a huge impact on the Fire Giant with a little bit of crit that they've got. So this is now a point where this Oni Fury very much dictates, whoever gets this dictates the next 5 minutes of the game, which if it's at Fire Giant could dictate the next 4 minutes on from that. So 10 minutes of the game looking to be set up here around this Oni Fury if it goes down.
So with Blur and Thumb being the ones here first, they're gonna go ahead and start this Oni Fury up, finding it already about half health going under. But UA Crimson is here. DJ is not, so they don't have the immediate healing. Blur's gonna use the ultimate, try find any sort of damage that he can, and it's gonna go on to Zella, but the Sandstorm comes in. Zordiel helps out his ADC, and they're both gonna find a kill on the Trizzle and Blur, and surging forward are the 4 remaining members of Crimson as Zella backs to regain his health. Froggy is now the target. Ninja, he's trying to lead this charge. There's a bit of a slow, thanks to DJ being around the corner, but it doesn't hinder the rest of the team. Froggy's been caught by Roughneck. He may find the kill, and it looked like with the leap he will, as Ninja has taken down Thumb. It's all down onto DJ all alone, and he's going to keep his distance for members of UA Crimson. And for Get Oni Fury, Fire Giant is the call.
So Aegis is a pretty good relic, right? You just take absolutely no damage from anything, including, I don't know, let's say the entire ultimate from Agent Blur and the follow-up damage from Teacher's ultimate, nothing. Spent their time baiting with an Aegis going, you can do jack squat to me, whilst you then have right next to them a channeling ultimate Raijin who gets to, again, free cast. I thought it was, again, going... It looked like they wanted to go on Zordal, but as soon as he goes in the ult, Agent Blur's like, no, I can't hit him. He's CC immune. I don't care if he's CC immune. He still takes the damage. So absolutely insane work from UA Crimson there. And again, Fireball Ninja just ults on top of everyone. No one's able to deal with anything. But the problem is for me, was that Wildcats took that fight whilst DJ was in mid. The entire point of your comp is you have Hell Sustain, and your hell wasn't involved. So all I gotta ask is, what the hell were you doing?
Oh, whatever they were doing, the result is this ensuing fight around the Oni Fury after Fire Giant being taken down. If Wildcats are gonna have to give this one up. They don't have the team together to be able to fight this. And it looks like Froggy even wants someone over from his team to try and at least get this Pyromancer to negate some of the gold, but with no one following him, instead gonna help his minions over at this tier 2 tower and right, try and push that down a little bit more. The members of UA Crimson are grouped up on this left-hand side. They want the tier 2 tower, and honestly, Wildcats, you're too little too late. You're not going to be able to defend this one in any way. Backing off to the Phoenix they go, but over in right, Froggy didn't help the minions. He went to them. Yeah, you know, I'm just gonna say okay here, because Crimson, surprisingly, with him and right, didn't commit to the Phoenix, so they're gonna go for the tier 2 tower mid. Thumb's getting a pluck. He's helping a little bit, but not too much. As Roughneck, he did use the Stygian Torment. He doesn't manage to bring any members in, but this is still under the tier 2 tower. Zella manages to finally take down Thumb. His teammates were chasing the kill down, and Roughneck, his team gets to him just in time before he falls as Zella takes down DJ. There goes the heals, and in comes Froggy, but he's all alone, getting shredded apart. Mashy cutting him off little by little. The rage transformation coming through. Finds safety under the Phoenix for now. And oh, Blur, he comes through, but Roughneck, he chases and will take the Kagulin out of the picture. Blur's all alone under Phoenix. Trizzle finally joining him, but too little too late. Zella finds another. Ninja finds the jungler, and that is the Dia side. That is the middle Phoenix, and that is going to be game number 2 and the set going the way of UA Crimson.
That last engagement, I like the call from Thumb. Try to isolate someone, blink pluck, but just no way did anyone else from Wildcats have the DPS to deal with it. They are able to isolate Roughneck, but they're just too tanky with Fire Giant Sustain. It takes way too long to burn them down. Thumb ends up falling, and the rest from UA Crimson comes straight back to support, and you just end up with this machine of one person going in, getting obliterated, another person going in, getting obliterated. It just fell apart to this conveyor belt. Really nice, controlled response coming out from Crimson, just saying, okay, let's blow them up. We can still win this. We've still got a long time. All right, now let's set up Phoenix. And we just constantly machine gun through members. Such a great work, and definitely a deserved win there.
Absolutely good game from both teams. But as said before, Alabama Crimson are the ones who are going to find themselves the victor here of this set. To break all this down and give us a little more insight on it, we're going to throw things back to the desk to go over set as a whole.
Thank you, Vengeance and Supersonic Blur, for that excellent cast there. And I mean, they mentioned it. It felt like a lot of just tunneled, just one at a time, just the conveyor belt there. Supersonic Blur made a great point about that. It felt like each and every member of Wildcats was just going in one at a time, getting picked. Then the next one goes in, and so on.
Yeah, great game there by Alabama Crimson. The Wildcats, they were doing great in the early game, getting some pressure in some lanes, keeping it even if not ahead. And when you have a Hell in the mid lane, that's something that can be very difficult to do, especially under Raijin, who's such an early beast. But then when it came to the team fights and grouping and that just team fight, that late game, they just didn't quite have it there. There were a couple of actives they used, kind of alts that didn't quite get value, that kind of turned some of those 50-50 fights, and eventually just kind of that end game that the Alabama Crimson have. They're playing so well, playing together, playing off each other, keeping everybody alive, and they end up with the 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0 now for Alabama Crimson there. Definitely, well, very definite, the top of the, this Group B here now. So with UK being 1-1 now, I feel like this might be a matchup to keep an eye out for on of this Collegiate Group B here, because it seems like these two teams are going to be fighting back and forth a lot of these times, because from what we've seen with the other teams, it looks like they're maybe just a tad bit lower than these two teams.
Yeah, no, like I said, the Wildcats played really great, but they just didn't quite have the team together there in the late games. But again, we've already spoken a lot about Crimson. They're such a fun team to watch with some of these picks. Honor that we were able to pilot, as well as just the Fafnir. Some great play all around by all of them, of course. And again, shout out to the Wildcats. They've held with them in not just the first game and the second game, but also had leads. Got some comebacks there, which are, against a team like the Crimson, very difficult to do. So I'm excited for both these teams. When we come to the playoff times, these two teams are probably going to be going pretty far in the tournament.
Excited is exactly where my mind is. But that will be all for us today here for our Collegiate Group B matchup, where Alabama Crimson takes the win here. But there are, of course, even more games here from the Albion Giants League. Tons of leagues, and if you want to join in, always check out that Discord underneath. But we will also have a cast tomorrow at 5 p.m. EST as well as 7 p.m. EST for more matches. But I've been Dr. Thanatos, joined on the desk by King Batu, also doing our lovely production work, as well as TIH, Vengeance, as well as Supersonic Blur, giving us the cast there. But that is all for us today, so thank you for coming out.